They dragged the cub's chain across the floor on purpose. The sound was sharp, metallic, meant to echo. It rattled through the holding chamber like a challenge, scraping over stone plates engraved with old victories and older laws. The aliens in the room leaned forward at the noise, mandibles twitching, eyes dilating. This was spectacle. This was how fear was taught. The cub stumbled. Its legs were too thin for the weight of the collar, forged for an adult of its species. The chain yanked it forward, and the cub caught itself just before its snout hit the floor. A quiet whimper escaped before it could stop itself. The handlers laughed. At the far end of the chamber, the human stood still. Warden Elias Wren, earthborn, unarmored, no visible weapon, watched without blinking. His hands were clasped behind his back, posture relaxed in a way that unsettled the guards more than any aggressive stance ever could. The cub species Varak were apex predators by galactic consensus, 8 feet tall when grown. Bone crests, musculature like braided steel. A civilization that had once ruled 3 systems through conquest alone. This one barely reached Elias's waist. They need to learn early, snarled Handler Krez, giving the chain another tug. Dominance is survival. Mercy is extinction. The cub's ears flattened. Its claws scraped helplessly at the floor. Elias exhaled, slowly. He had been assigned as an observer, a concession to the coalition after too many reports of incidents. Humans had a habit of interfering, of complicating things, of refusing to look away. The coalition called it emotional instability. Elias called it basic decency. Enough, he said. The word was quiet, almost gentle. The handlers ignored him. Krez jerked the chain again, harder this time. The cub cried out, a raw, instinctive sound that punched straight through the chamber. Several spectators chuckled. One placed a wager. That was when Elias moved. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He simply stepped forward and wrapped one hand around the chain. The handlers laughed again. You'll lose your arm, Krez said. That collar can dislocate, Elias pulled. Not hard, not fast. Just enough. The chain went taut, then slack. Krez stumbled forward, surprised, his grip breaking. The cub fell backward into Elias's legs, trembling. Elias caught it without looking, one arm automatically bracing the small, shaking body against his thigh. The room went quiet. Krez snarled and reached for his shock baton. Human, you will release. Elias pulled again. This time, the sound wasn't metal on stone. It was metal screaming. The chain tore free from the collar's anchor ring with a sound like a bone snapping. The reinforced bolt embedded in the floor sheared cleanly in half, sparks flying as the chain whipped upward. Elias didn't flinch. He kept pulling. The chain coiled around his forearm, links biting into skin, drawing blood. Muscles in his shoulder and back flexed, cords standing out under plain fabric. The chain kept coming, link by link, like something being dragged unwillingly out of the ground itself. The spectators leaned back. This was wrong. That anchor had held adult Varak in battle rage. It had been tested, certified, blessed by ritual. Elias tore it out anyway. With a final wrench, he ripped the remaining length free and let it fall to the floor at his feet. The sound echoed louder than the earlier dragging ever had. Silence followed, not the comfortable kind. The kind where courage drains out of a room like air from a ruptured hull. Elias looked up. Every eye was on him. The cub clutched his leg, claws digging in reflexively. Elias reached down and gently pried them loose, then lifted the cub into his arms. It weighed almost nothing to him. He adjusted his grip so the cub's head rested against his chest, heartbeat loud and steady beneath its ear. You don't teach strength by breaking children, Elias said. Krez's mandibles quivered. You dare lecture us on our own species? Elias met his gaze. I dare stop you. The guards raised their weapons. Elias didn't move. Instead, he did something infinitely worse. He turned his back on them. He focused entirely on the cub. It's okay, he murmured, voice low. I've got you. The cub froze. Then, slowly, impossibly, it relaxed. The Varak in the audience felt it like a physical blow. That sound soft, reassuring wasn't part of their cultural lexicon. Comfort was weakness. Protection was earned only through dominance. Yet here was a human, smaller, softer, bleeding from the arm, holding a Varak cub as if it were precious. As if it mattered. The first guard hesitated, then the second. Krez roared. Fire. No one did. Because in that moment, Something ancient and predatory inside the Varak stirred not fear, but recognition. Elias wasn't posturing. He wasn't challenging for dominance. He was claiming responsibility. And every apex instinct screamed the same truth. You do not challenge the one who takes responsibility for the young. The silence stretched. Elias finally turned back around, cub still in his arms. I will be filing a formal report, he said calmly. And I will be taking this cub into protective custody under Coalition Article 7. That article applies only if, Kress began. If the subject's life is at risk, Elias finished. Which it was. Repeatedly, he stepped closer. Each step felt heavier than the last, like gravity itself was siding with him. You dragged its chain to make a point, Elias said. Congratulations. You did. He stopped directly in front of Kress. And here's mine. He dropped the chain at Kress's feet. The handler flinched. The cub lifted its head and looked at Elias, eyes wide and uncomprehending. It touched the human's chest with one claw right over his heart. It purred, a sound no Varak cub had ever made in captivity. The chamber erupted not in violence, but in chaos, shouted objections. Emergency signals, rapid-fire translations. Elias ignored it all. He carried the cub out. Much later reports would circulate through the coalition about how the human hadn't just broken an anchor. He'd broken a precedent. Varak elders would argue for cycles about that moment, about whether strength could look like gentleness, about whether courage could exist without cruelty. And somewhere deep in the archives, the footage would replay again and again. The moment they dragged the cub's chain, and the moment a human wrenched the entire room's courage out with it, then showed them what real strength looked like when it stayed.